Good evening. Today is Tuesday, February 23rd, 2021, and this is the start of the Hanson Board of Selectmen meeting. In accordance with Governor Baker's recent order reducing the number of individuals allowed to congregate at any time to 10 due to the spike in COVID-19 cases, this evening's meeting is being held remotely, with reasonable access being afforded via live stream courtesy of Whitman Hanson Cable Access Television. Please stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we will now be going into executive session to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel or to conduct collective bargaining session or contract negotiations with non-union personnel pursuant to Mass General Laws C-30A 21A2. And we'll be returning to open session at 6 o'clock or upon the completion of executive session business, whichever comes first. So I'm looking for a motion to go on executive session.
So moved. West seconds.
There's nothing to read.
Motion's made and seconded by Mr. Bloss. Roll call vote. Mr. Hickey.
Aye.
Mr. Bloss.
Aye.
Mr. Dyer.
Aye.
Mrs. Kemet.
Aye.
And I'm an aye. We're now in executive session. Okay, welcome back to the Hanson Board of Selectmen meeting. Next up is public announcements and upcoming meetings. Mrs. Kemet, if you don't mind.
Okay. Nomination papers for the May 15th Town of Hanson annual election are now available at the Hanson Town Clerk's office. Nomination papers can be obtained by contacting the Hanson Town Clerk's office at 781-293-2772 and making an appointment. Volunteers are needed on the following committees: Facebook Upkeep Committee, Conservation Commission, Associate Members, Cultural Council, Disabilities, Economic Development, Highway Building Committee, Historical Commission, Memorial Day Patriotic Observance, Memorial Field Trustees, and North River Commission. Applications for appointment and info on the committees are available on the town website at www.hanson-ma.gov. Upcoming meetings: Board of Selectmen, March 16th, 2021 at 6 p.m. Board of Selectmen, March 23rd, 2021 at 6 p.m. That's it.
Great, thank you. Okay, first up under new business, discuss Whitman Water and Sewer Department under billing Whitman Hanson Regional School District. And today we have Jay Talman. Jay is our general counsel. And Jay, would you mind just briefing us on where we are regarding the water issue, sir?
Sure. So this is a kind of a long-standing matter that got on our radar screen probably close to a year ago now, maybe a
little longer.
maybe even a little. What's that?
It was a little longer.
Little longer, but what happened was, and we're kind of odd man out, so we don't really have that much of a stake in it, although there is some money at stake. Whitman forgot to charge the school for water. Just for whatever reason, they failed to do it. And then they realized their error and they wanted to collect from Whitman Hanson. And so they started talking, and then I got involved in it because obviously we'd be obliged to pay some portion of whatever indebtedness. So the schools council thought that we could maybe be helpful in bargaining. So I met a couple times with them. The first thing we did was say, you can't go back 15 years for this debt. The law only allows you to go back 6. And second, we're not going to pay it, unless we come up to some reasonable accommodation to your error, and we'll, essentially make a mess of it. We're not interested in negotiating that much unless you're willing to spread out the payments over time and just throw it in under whatever other obligations we have to the school. And it's an operating expense, so it's not capital that they could assess separately or try something else. So we kind of negotiated close to a year ago to cut it down to the 6 years, which is roughly 185,000. It appears that that's been accepted by Whitman. I don't think they have much of a choice, but it's been accepted by Whitman, and they've also agreed to spread it out over 3 years. The remaining question is how is it paid? And from my perspective, and it's ultimately up to you all as a select board, is they could pay, the school can pay it from whatever source of funds they can bring to bear, whether that's E&D funds or they pay it through the assessment. You know, they have the authority. They don't even need us to do this. They have the authority to pay it and do it through the assessment. What I think you wouldn't want to agree to is to just pay it out of your pocket, out of some other source of funds. The school's responsible for doing an assessment. They'd probably rather not include an additional 30,000 or so a year to Hanson when it's 30,000 a year or so that they could have for their other operating expenses, but that's their issue, not ours. So John and I are going to participate in a Zoom call, I believe on Friday, to discuss bringing this back around. And I think the message I would have is that, you know, however you want to pay it, school is fine with us, but we're not going to have a separate appropriation to pay this bill. So that's it in a nutshell. And the reason I say that is I don't think the town normally pays for the schools or their share of the school's water bills through the regular assessment. So I don't know why we would treat this any differently. They're just going to have to consider it within their regular assessment. That would be my preference if I was sitting in your shoes.
So Jay, so what should we do as a board tonight? Or is it just simply you just wanted to make us aware of where you are regarding the water bill and still wait for that next meeting to make a decision?
So Kenny, I think that you could go any number of ways here. You could, if we want to just kind of stay the course, again, we're not a principal party to the settlement. We're just participating in the discussion of how it's paid. John and I are really going to be listening more than anything, but to the extent that someone suggests that, hey, town, why don't you just pay this out of your free cash or your stabilization or something, I think that kind of thing we would need some guidance from this board on, whether we have that guidance now or later. I know they'd like to put this to bed. I think if you want to give a preference to John and I when we're talking to them, then we could certainly convey that. Again, the common sense approach to it from my perspective is like, pay it however you want, school. This is an operating expense. It's going to be paid out over 3 years, assuming that we're roughly half of it. I know it's not half and half, but our proportionate share divided by 3 is what it would be per year. Tack it onto our assessment, pay it out of your E&D, whatever. But don't come to us asking for a special assessment for it, would be the position I might recommend to you all. If someone else has another reason for wanting to do it differently, then certainly we'll convey that too.
Yeah, no, I think that that's the absolute way we should do it. I mean, that's the way we've done it for years,
Right.
you know, so, you know, why should we vary away from that? So, and me personally, I am totally fine with that. Mrs. Kemet.
Yeah, I'm totally fine with that. I think that's a total common sense approach. Just want to clarify that we'll only be paying 40% of whatever that amount is. And even though it may seem like it's splitting pennies, we got to take our savings where we can this year. So just to be clear, since this is for an older period of time before we had the whole fiasco with, the percentages and who's paying what portion. Our portion should only be 40%. And you're right, Jay, it should just be part of the budget. They should present it accordingly. Yep.
Yeah, it is going to be proportionate. They can't charge us an operating expense in excess of our share.
Yeah, and then I think once you and John meet with them, then John can give us an update, at our following meeting after that, and then we'll take it from there. But I think we should stay the course and do it like we normally would with any other regional school district assessment or bill that they may have.
Yeah, I
Does
agree.
anyone else have any questions on this matter? Okay, I'm not seeing any. Okay, Jay, thank you very much. Sorry to be so brief with you, but
It's perfectly fine.
we'll look forward to talking to you in a couple of weeks.
Sure, absolutely. Talk to you guys soon.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, bye.
Okay, we're gonna move things around a little bit. Next, under resignations, Marilyn Cardell, Hanson Housing Authority, elected position. Do we have Miss Sloan in the house? It looks like she is.
Muted?
No, no.
Okay. It's
Hi,
Miss-
Beth.
Hi, it's Marilyn Cardilli. Just to let you know.
Cargilly, I apologize.
Okay. I'm going to give you some background. The housing authorities changed. Originally, it was 4 elected members, 1 state appointed. Back in 2017, the law changed and they wanted it to be a tenant elected position. So at that time, Joe Weeks was on the board and his term was up. So that position became a tenant elected position, but they didn't say how they were going to have an election for the tenants. So they couldn't hold the election. So Joe was kind enough to stay on for an extra year, even though he wasn't elected, and that seat became vacant. At that time, they appointed Dan Pardo, and Marilyn, who is a tenant, was elected in 2015, so she couldn't become an appointed because she was elected and it's 5 years. Her term was up last year and she was reelected, and Dan is still the tenant elected. Now Governor Baker signed a law and now we can have an appointed tenant. And how they do that is the tenants request the town to put them as a appointed member of the housing authority. So now we have 3 elected, 1 town appointed, and 1 state appointed. So right now, Dan is the appointed and he is not a tenant. So he is going to pull papers if you guys are kind enough to accept Marilyn's resignation. And then she will ask to be appointed. I know it's crazy, but that's just that she is a tenant already, and she would like to be the appointed position. Deanne has said that if she steps down and you guys say that, yes, we'll put that on the town election for the 4 years remaining, he will come and take papers out and run. So that, but
Okay.
it's just a formality, but you guys have to accept her resignation, vote to put on the position on this year's election, and then we can go forward.
Okay, so Beth, the first question for me is, we can wait to put that on our next meeting, so we can accept the resignation?
No,
We gotta go
you
get it
have to
done
do
tonight.
it, yeah, because of the time constraint. Because
There's a deadline for the papers.
correct.
Okay, so we need to do it all tonight.
You don't have to accept Marilyn. They have, actually, we have 30 days to ask anybody else if they want to be appointed as well. But I need you to accept her resignation and put that position on the town election for this coming May.
Okay, so
Okay.
I'm looking for a motion to
So moved.
accept the resignation and to put that position on the election this coming May.
So moved. And I
Second.
appreciate that explanation, Beth, because I know she's a valuable contributor and I was kind of bummed out when I saw that she was resigning. So I'm glad to really hear that it's just a swap out.
Correct. That's all it is. To make it all legal.
I'll second that, Kenny.
Okay, is there any questions? Beth, I thank you for the explanation too.
Okay.
I asked John and he said, don't worry about it. Beth will be explaining it all.
Well, thanks, guys. Have a good night.
Okay, thanks, Beth.
You have to vote
Jim,
on
go ahead, Jim.
it.
Oh, were you just
No,
waving?
that was it. I was just waving goodnight to Beth.
Okay. All right. Looking for roll call vote. Laura,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
Matt,
Aye.
Wes,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. Okay. All right. Next up on the agenda, new business. Town planner on municipal vulnerability preparedness grant application. Is Deb, she just popped in. Deb, do you want to take that on for us, please?
Yeah, so probably a little over a year ago, we got a grant to do a municipal vulnerability preparedness plan. So we contracted with OCPC to get that done, and we had some workshops and some meetings, and the draft report is done, and OCPC is here tonight to present that to the board. So that you can kind of get a summary of what we went through to get to the plan and what the summary of the plan is. So I believe Paul, let me just introduce this, Paul Chenard from OCPC, Lori Muncy from OCPC, Joanne Zigmut from OCPC, and I believe Bill Politano is here from Serpent. I don't know, Napolitano, sorry about your last name. So I think I'm going to turn it over to Paul, who is then going to, do a quick PowerPoint presentation. And if you have questions or comments, Lori and Joanne and maybe Bill will answer at the end, and as me as well. Are you on, Paul?
I am. I will be needing be made a presenter in order for me to proceed.
John, can you do that?
Yes, I just added you, so you should be able to present.
Okay.
Paul, just so you know, you have 3 screens open.
Do I really?
Yeah.
It keeps relaunching, and it keeps telling me that the presenter needs to be to give me access.
Maybe he's given you access in one of
I-
the others.
I gave you access on the first 2. And I
Yeah.
think when I give you the access again, then it relaunches. I can give it
Okay.
where you are right now.
So let me do something real quick. Let me log out and then log back in by leaving the meeting, and hopefully that will correct all the issues.
Right, so here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna move on to the next item on the agenda. Once you get it straightened out in the end, you give me thumbs up and we'll go back to you.
Sounds good.
Okay, thank you. All right, next up on the agenda, update the 40B developments in progress. Deb, you're gonna handle that, or John, actually?
Yeah, that was me, Mr. Chairman.
Okay,
So thank you. So we had, at the last meeting, we were talking about a chapter 40B project extensively. And then I just wanted to give an update on some of the other chapter 40B projects that are in town. So right now, Hanson has 4.5% of the 10% affordable housing goal to be consistent with local needs. So Hanson needs 357 total units, and only currently 160 units are affordable. So we would need another 197 additional units based on the current total units that we have. So just a quick update on one of the 40Bs. The first one was Dunham Farms, which is at 902 Main Street. excuse me, it's home ownership condos for age 55 plus. They're affordable in perpetuity. It started in the 1990s. Originally was planned to build 52 units. 28 have been built. 12 of those 28 were affordable units. The market rate of those were around 309,000. Currently, 24 additional 55 plus units are being added. Only one of the remaining 24 that are going to be built is going to be affordable because they already built enough in the original build out to cover the amount of affordable they needed. The builder is Steve Webby, excuse me, and currently 6 are built and occupied, and they're going for around $429,000. The second one is Depot Village at 171 Phillips Street. There's 45 units total. Excuse me, 12 affordable. Currently being constructed. The foundation is in, and the framing of the first floor is commenced, and it will be a 3-story building. There's no age restriction. The builder is Brophy and Phillips, and it's being financed by Dakota Partners. And Hanson will be credited with all 45 units as affordable because they are all rental units. And occupancy is right now tentatively slated to be January of 2022. The final one is Ritter's Development at 280 Liberty Street. There's 57 units total, 13 affordable home ownership townhouses. It's a 55 plus age restriction. The builder is Mark Ritter, and they're looking to begin construction in about 4 weeks. And just to do some quick math, right now there's 3,572 total town housing units. We have 160 affordable units, and that gives the 4.5%. Depot Village, it will add a 45 to that total, and 12 will be affordable. 280 Liberty Street will add 57 to that total, and 13 will be affordable. And Dunham Farms will add 24 to the total, and only one of them will be affordable because the other 28 there is in the total housing stock already. Just so that would be a 5%. There would be 186 affordables out of 3,698 units, and that would be a 5%. Again, we get credit for Depot Village being affordable. We get an additional 33 units for because the entire development is going to be affordable. So that would takes the numbers up to 219 of affordable and 3,698 units, or 5.9%. So we're not close to the 10% yet. And just a quick math exercise. If we were hypothetically to every 100 units of housing that was added in Hanson, if we were to set aside 25% in order to of that 100 to be affordable, it would take approximately 1,000 more units in order to get up to the 10% goal. We would have 4,698 units and 469 affordable units, and that would be the 10%. So it's going to take a while. If we only keep putting aside 25% of every 100, it will take another 1,000 of units in order to get to the 10% goal. So I don't know if that helped, but that was a quick update on the Chapter 40B stuff. And any questions?
Anybody have any questions? Go ahead, Laura.
Yep, I just think it's important because we've all been getting a lot of letters, and I think there might be some misunderstandings out there about 40B, and that like the selectmen can just stop 40B, stop 40B from coming to Hanson, and just, I think it's important that people recognize what John just stated, is that the town needs to demonstrate that it's on track to have 10% affordable housing. We're far from that. And until such time as we get to the 10%, and it's constantly going to be moving, right? Because our population will go up, the number of housing units we have will go up, and therefore the 10% number is going to exponentially increase accordingly. It's going to be somewhat of a moving target, but until such time, we are going to have builders that apply under 40B to have a streamlined permitting process. And what this Board of Selectmen can do is what we did at our last meeting, which is articulate what our concerns are, work with all the land use boards to get projects so that they are in keeping with the character and nature of our town, and that they're compatible with our little hamlet of Hanson, and that they don't stick out like a sore thumb. We can work on those types of things and make sure that, whoever's building isn't doing any undue harm to the abutters and all that good stuff. But what we can't do is stop 40B. That we cannot do that. There is no way to stop 40B. If somebody owns a piece of property, and they're complying with the regulations and they're complying with the rules, and we've gotten feedback from all the different land use boards and everybody else, and we're working with them and they're complying, that's where we're at. So I'm just concerned, Mr. Chair, because I've been seeing quite a few letters from folks that are abutters, and I can understand why they're concerned and upset. And I think this whole board had expressed that we're not necessarily convinced that's the right place for the next 40B on Spring Street. But it is a privately owned piece of property, and and we're trying to work with our housing production plan, which is really like our underpinning of everything, which is we came up with a view of how the town is going to move forward with housing. And so we're trying to make sure that whatever type of housing is coming through is affordable, that it's compatible with the housing production plan. But short of that, this notion that we can just sort of somehow stop them, I just would urge people to really do some research on what 40B is, urge people to get an understanding, and just to assure people that it is not this board's intention to steamroll over anybody, any abutters, any homeowners, and change the nature of this town. We all love the town, but you can't just stop progress, so to speak. There's really no way to do that. And I know it's not a particularly popular thing to say, but I do think it's important that people have got reasonable expectations about what this board can do with respect to 40B.
Laura, I agree 100% with that. The other thing too is the letter did go out. You guys had voted at the last meeting with all the concerns that everybody had, and through John and Jay's office, they developed that letter, and the letter went out. I saw it. I thought it was excellent.
Yes, it was.
And and all the stuff that you guys discussed on this subject, the last meeting, I thought it was like I was right there. So you guys had all the same concerns. So I've gotten all the emails as well, but you bring up good points, Laura. Anybody else have anything else on the 40B? Nope. Okay. Paul, I saw something that said that you are now the presenter. Is that true? I saw something on my screen about him.
It was trying to give me something all of a sudden, like the window from go to meeting came up. So let me try to launch it.
Yeah, try it, because it popped.
We're gonna triage.
It popped up on my screen and said that you are now the presenter.
I don't know how I did it, but it did it. So hold on 1 second.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Sounds pretty quiet there, Mr. Bloss.
There were all kind of technical difficulties at the party, so I am back in song.
Okay.
Okay. It's allowing me to do it. Please tell me if you can see the presentation.
We can see the presentation.
Okay. Normally I would run this as a normal presentation, but seeing that we've had a little bit of technical difficulties, I'm gonna kind of leave it in this format so that we can proceed.
That's fine.
So I understand there was 3 of me, or there is 3 of me on this presentation. In full disclosure, I'm a triplet, so they're just my backup. All right, let's see. So I would like to thank the Board of Selectmen, members of the public, and all those in attendance. Thank you guys for your time and your willingness to hear about the Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness and Hazardous Mitigation Plan that the Old Colony Planning Council has done on behalf of the town of Hanson. And we will get going. So for those who may not be very familiar with the Old Colony Planning Council, or maybe have not heard of our organization, we're one of the 13 regional planning agencies in the Commonwealth. And what we are tasked to do is assist cities and towns like the town of Hanson in planning for present conditions, future needs, utilizing our local knowledge, our technical expertise, and regional collaboration. So that said, the team that was in charge of putting together this plan was Ms. Lori Muncie, the Director of Community Planning and Economic Development, Ms. Joanne Zigman, our Senior Planner of Economic Development and Environmental Planning, and then also in partnership with Mr. Bill Napolitano from SERPIT. So for those who may not be aware of what a municipal vulnerability preparedness plan or a hazard mitigation plan is it's a state and federally mandated document that gets the community to look at what are the issues in regard to hazard mitigation in regards to extreme like weather events. So it's a community collaborated effort, and it really goes into looking at what areas of a community, structures in a community are susceptible to these type of hazards, and how they may be mitigated in order to reduce potentially loss of life in extreme case and to minimize any impacts to property and the actual natural environment as well. In order to complete these documents and to move on to granting opportunities, it has to be done and submitted in order to go on to the next level and get some money for mitigation and other things. So one thing you always hear a lot is like, well, what's the difference between the municipal vulnerability preparedness plan and the hazard mitigation plan? And really, they're very similar. One is just state required, and the other one is required by our federal partners. But there's a lot of cross similarities that overlap. For example, it has to be spearheaded by the municipality. It requires community engagement and regional collaboration. Both plans have to review existing information, look at things like what is vulnerable, what are the potential impacts, document what are the current policies, identify where there might be vulnerabilities in the community, and what strengths there are and potential actions to shore up those vulnerabilities, develop a report, and then seek granting opportunities to mitigate those issues. So this was a project that's been going on for quite a long time. It all started back in roughly around October, November of 2019. It continued on with multiple workshops. For example, like the Community Resilience Building workshop, which took place in February of 2020, straight on through the pandemic. So the work didn't stop despite a virus, with virtual public engagements throughout the year. And then now we are in the process of finalizing a draft plan. And then once all the comments and everything are received, we'll move on to the final document with the plan needing to be adopted by the town either this year or on to next. So as I had touched upon before, the document is really community driven. There was a group put together to identify potential hazards and what to do about them. And those top hazards identified by community members were floods and drought, extreme storms and wind events, fire, and extreme temperature. So as part of that collaboration with community members, a risk matrix was developed by the community. And what that risk matrix does is really look at all the top hazards and identifies which areas of the town and structures might be vulnerable to the top hazards, where there are strengths in the community, so potentially there will be not many impacts or reduced impacts, and what actions need to be taken by the town of Hanson in order to mitigate those potential impacts. And then out of that matrix is a series of priority projects as well that were identified by the group. So you see here is the the matrix in front of you, and it's really split into like 3 categories. So one is infrastructure, and when you look at the infrastructure matrix, you can see there's a number of identified infrastructure that should be reviewed and see how it could be made more resilient. So for example, like your water supply, there's talk there of developing a new wellhead and also the establishment of a water tower for backup water supply in case that would ever need to be drawn upon. Next would be societal infrastructure. So things like a senior center, and one of the identified issues there is like the senior center could be used as a cooling and heating shelter during extreme events, and the need to actually harden that facility by adding backup power systems and other infrastructure. And then we go on to the environmental section, where there was a number of different environmental areas that might have potential impacts and how they might be mitigated in order to make them more resilient. So moving on to the priority projects identified. So through this risk metrics and through the community group collaboration, it was identified these priority projects, which was the development of water storage capacity, so a new water tower, a culvert maintenance and repair plan, as we had discussed, the heating and cooling shelter for seniors, and also adding additional backup power supply, addressing flood-prone areas like the ocean spray area, which is right now in a commercial, as I understand, a commercial development area, which because of flooding is prohibiting its commercial viability, and the building of a new highway facility. And then we're simply asking what you guys think, and then we'll take questions from there. And so please.
Thank you, Paul.
You're welcome.
That's a nice overview of a lot of work that went into this. So
Yeah,
you
they did a
summed it up
lot.
really quick and short for the amount of work that I know that was put into this by OCPC. I was involved in some of it, but it's an extensive 450 plus page report, and a lot of work has gone into it. I did send, I think, the summary from the plan to hopefully the selectmen got that. But yeah, if anybody has any questions on this, please feel free. Well, we got everybody here to answer those questions.
Do you guys have any questions? Laura?
Yeah, this is great. I'm sure you've made this all look seamlessly, effortless. But I know that there was a lot of work behind the scenes to get to this point. I'm really concerned about everything that you've listed here, but a little shocked that we don't have a backup generator up at the senior center. And as a very, very fundamental kind of thing. And we've had times if somebody sneezes, we lose power in Hanson. It's just the way it is. And so if we're in the middle of any kind of extreme weather, it just really gives me cause for concern about what we would do with our most vulnerable folks. And I'm sure we could come up with something else, whether it's a school with a generator or I don't know, but it kind of makes me think that maybe as a board we should think about how much would that cost. And it seems like somewhat low-hanging fruit. And I know we're not in a good year this year for anything, but I think that might be something we might want to put a pin in and look at. Just my 2 cents worth. But thank you for all of the effort and work on this.
Thank you for the input.
Does anyone else have any more questions?
I just have another comment. I mean, one of the purposes of completing the MVP and hazard mitigation plan was so that we could identify where we were vulnerable, and there will be action grants available to apply to some of these issues. So if the generator is something that, you know, we're concerned with, which was a great concern of mine as well. And Mary Collins did participate in the workshops and whatnot. Maybe we could pin that as the thing that we apply for, you know, so it's something that I will definitely be pursuing, but just so that you understand that this plan does give us access to those action grants moving forward under the MVP.
Okay, so Deb, you're just looking for the support from the board on this.
Really just an informational, I believe we're gonna, and questions, and then we'll eventually finalize it, and then the town will have to adopt it. Am I correct in that, Paul and Lori, Joanne?
Yes, that's right. Joanne here. So this was just a listening session to hear the results of what's been found through the process. And exactly as you described, Deb, once this is closed for public comment, so folks watching on television, or if anybody would like to have a look at the report later, it's on the ocpcrpa.org website. You can download it there. The deadline is March 5th, and comments go to Lori, as you see on the screen here. And then it'll be finalized and sent off to the state and the feds for review. And then it'll come back. We might have to make some changes based on their review, maybe not. And then it will eventually come back to the town for further discussion and adoption.
Okay, good. Laura?
Yeah, I just, you know, I really would like to try to leverage all of this hard work that these guys have gotten and find a way to solicit as much public input as we possibly can so that we can, I feel like we're on the right path. I feel like this is representative of what I think most of our folks would say in Hanson. But I'm wondering, how can we as the Board of Selectmen try to support solicitation of this feedback? For instance, could we ask John and Greer to put it up on, you know, on our website? Could we have our Facebook guy post something out there letting people know about it? Could we put a blurb in the Express? I know time is short, but I think that it's important for us to get comments from all walks of life and try to reach people wherever they are for their feedback.
You could probably take what Paul just did and, you know, and take those frames. I think it looks like there's 16 of them. And then the what do you think on there with Laurie's information on there, you could probably get that on Facebook and the website. And if people have comments and stuff, they can direct them right to Laurie.
Yeah. Okay. That's kind of where I was going with
John,
that.
could you work on that for us and just figure out a way so we can get this out to the public, so then the public can have, if they have any comments, we encourage people to make comments, but if they need any information or have any questions, then they can reach out to Laurie direct.
Yes, we have the presentation, so we could get it up on the website and out to Facebook tomorrow.
Okay. All right. Perfect. And I think somebody would probably, as far as the Express, would have to just reach out to Tracy. I know Tracy's been watching all of our meetings. Obviously, she's not attending the meetings, but if we reach out, if I remember, I have no problem reaching out to her. Remembering's a different story, but okay. So if there's no more questions, I'd like to thank everyone from OCPC. I'd like to thank Deb Petty. Good stuff, excellent stuff, a lot of work involved. I really appreciate everyone's time in this.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank everybody from OCPC. I appreciate it.
Laurie, it's good to see you again.
Thank you, Kenny. Miss you.
Take care.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
Good night, folks. Good luck.
Okay, next up under new business, authorize the town administrator to sign payroll, vendor, and withholding warrants on behalf of the Board of Selectmen through March 31st. If you guys remember, on January 26th, we extended John to sign for us for the month of April. Now, for the month of April, for the month of February, excuse me. And now we're going to need the same thing for March because we're still unsure when we're going to be able to meet again in person. So I'm looking for a motion to authorize the town administrator to sign.
So moved. Second.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded by Mrs. Cummett. Roll call vote. Mrs. Cummett.
Aye.
Mr. Bloss.
Aye.
Mr. Dyer.
Aye.
Mr. Hickey.
Aye.
And I'm an aye. Okay, next up on the new business, performance evaluation for town administrator John Stambrook. So if you guys noticed in your packets, we have, I'm just going to pull it up here. We have I believe it was 6 things on there. So what we did was we had prioritized, the things that we wanted John to work on, and those 6 things are the priorities. Now, there's probably 100 things that we want him to do, but we're trying to be realistic here. I don't think that we should put 30 or 40 things on there and then and just make that stuff so it's not attainable. John has a lot of work to do. John's communication is excellent with me, and what we do when we either we we sit down, or through text messages, we try to identify the priorities. Employee stuff is the top priority, plus the 2022 budget right now. So I kind of liked, and this is where I need you guys and girls, I kind of like the 6 things that are on there, because again, those are priority things. I think that we could answer, we could make comments to those 6 things. Is John doing this? Is he not doing this? And filter from there. If you guys think, there should be something else on there, then now's the time really to speak. And if you guys are okay with the 6 things on there, then I think if you could please make comments to that, again, on John's performance on those things, the priority things, and kind of filter from there. But certainly I'm open for suggestions if anybody, I just don't, in the past, I've done this. This is my 4th town administrator. So I have done this before. And I'm just not a big fan of the 2 or 3 page thing. And did he do this? Did he do that? Because in my opinion, it's just not realistic. It's not realistic, but I'll open up the floor. Matt, we'll go with you first because you're on my right.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. No, I think that here's the 6 tasks that are most important, especially in the last 6 months, almost a year now. And I think doing it this way is the right way. And I think if there's any issues with our town administrator, that I would hope that would address those issues well before this evaluation. And I know that, John and I have had conversations about, you're doing a great job or whatever it may be. And if there's an issue, I'm going to raise it with you, Mr. Chair, or with John himself. So I think that this is a good way to kind of keep us on task on our priorities as we move forward.
Okay, Mr. Bloss. Okay, he's good. Laura.
Yeah, I agree that, keep it a bit pithy, so that we can, kind of not overwhelm him, and we can accurately judge whether he's successfully accomplished what he was supposed to be accomplishing. I'm assuming that we're going to revisit these because obviously some of these are very dated, like Springtown meeting, COVID, God willing, will not be his existence for the rest of his career. Some of these other things. But how are you proposing that we give feedback on the extent to which he's met these? I'm not sure. Are we emailing you about them? Are we just? I'm unclear on how we're giving feedback. I guess is and how we're score, like, is it a 1 to 5? Is it a he did it, he didn't do it? I just trying to wrap my mind around how that's
So
happening.
we can have that discussion right now. If you guys want to have a rating system like 1 to 5, I thought that we could take, the list, the 6 things on there, and comment to the right-hand side on each individual ones.
Okay.
Let's face it, it's the guy's first year, and he didn't start in the best, year. It wasn't planned, but it was a tough year. It was a tough year. So, again, I think just commenting on these things here, the rating system I think is good, but I don't think it's for him right now at his first year. I don't know if that, but again, whatever you guys think, I don't know if that would be a benefit or not, but that's just my opinion. Jim.
The way I cut.
Oh, go ahead, Laura. I'm sorry.
The way I kind of look at this, Kenny, is, as you know, because you've lived through this, the town administrator's performance can be politicized. And I think that this board, generally, the sense I've gotten is that this board feels very confident in John and the job that he's done, and that he stepped in a really unenviable time to do this job, and that a number of things may not have been tended to the way that they should have been by predecessors. And I'll just leave it there without getting into any detail. And so I look at it like the more detail that we give here, we're actually, I think, helping John in terms of, we're not going to be here forever. There's going to be another board. And I want to make sure that there's an audit trail, that he has met the goals that this Board of Selectmen set for him, that we think he's doing a good job, so that all of a sudden, if there's turnover in the Board of Selectmen, his performance isn't going to be politicized, because I don't think it's fair to him, and I don't think it's fair to the position, period.
Good point. Mr. Hickey, any comments?
Sure. I have a lot. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Actually, I don't. And I never liked the idea of evaluating any town administrator, especially John, in public, because I actually like John. And I won't comment, from what Laura said about past town administrators, but within the last, year plus 2 months, any problems or questions I've had about John or his performance, I talked to John privately about, which I haven't. John and I have had discussions in the past, and like you, Kenny, and like all of us, whether it's a phone call or a text message, as a matter of fact, this morning I had a quick 5-minute call with John while he was on his way to work, just before I get in the office, sitting in the parking lot because I was stuck in traffic, going to Roxbury to whatever, to dump my truck. But I was able to talk to John. In any discussions like that, if there was a situation, I wouldn't air it out in a meeting like this. Now, as far as the evaluation, I like the way it's set up. But I guess my question would be, once we are all set with the Springtown meeting, so that falls off. Now, what goes in there to take its place? And I'm only saying this, John, because I know you have absolutely no control over this, is the cell tower. We still don't have reception in Hanson. And this has been going on long before John got here. Or would it be that the fall town meeting would take its place? Or is it an issue that we don't even have yet? I mean, as far as COVID-19, and I think John was here maybe 6 weeks. I'm glad we live in Hanson. I'm glad that the town employees in town hall, under John's direction, are doing exactly what they're doing. Hall should not be open yet. And whether other towns are doing it or not, that's not my concern because I live in Hanson and we're doing it the right way. So I guess my real question is that, when something falls off, what goes on?
Mr. Bloss.
That's all.
Would it make sense to put a date that on
Yes.
this, to say, so as of this date, we have commented, and as Laura said, I mean, instead of, I wouldn't go numbers necessarily, but what if it's achieved, working on, or not, and not being negative, like this is not being addressed, and we just did it that way. Either he's achieved the goal by the time of the date, and if he's achieved the goal by the time of the date, that's exactly when, like Jim and Laura just sort of said, that goal is then moved off, very likely, town meeting is moved off, and a new goal is put in its place. And then we set a date 6 months hence, again, to say, and these are the next 6 goals, whatever. Does that make sense?
Yeah, in fact, I was gonna say the date of maybe July 1st after town meeting to kind of update it. But honestly, we could update it anytime we wanted. You know what I mean? We're not, we don't have to wait. But under the Town Administrators Act, we have to conduct a review of the town administrator. Jim, I agree with you 100% that, public evaluations are not the best, but we have no choice in the matter. This is something that we have to do. Mr. Dyer.
I was just going to say, to kind of follow up on what the discussion has been, is maybe, yeah, we have 6 items right now that we're trying to focus on, but maybe it doesn't hurt to have item 7, 8, 9, just not saying we want you to focus on it, but just to say, okay, town meeting's over, or this is now done. And we don't have to wait for a good selectmen's meeting to be able to say, all right, now we want to officially put, a new priority there. Just because I know that we do get busy. Sometimes the town the evaluation gets put off just because we get so busy, and it's not the biggest thing because John's doing a great job.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point, Matt. Go ahead, Wes.
So then clearly, I think we all agree from what Jim Hickey just said too, that goal number 7 is, John, you're going to get that cell tower built, because if there's any one thing I'm hearing constantly from friends, but it's all, you are a failure as a selectman, we still don't have that cell tower up. And I just roll over and take the blame, but I think now I want the blame on you, John.
Well, but John, don't you have an update on that? He hasn't been sitting idle, even though it's not one of his goals right now. I thought you got an update recently on that.
Yes, the contractors are out behind the school surveying the site, and we've received several calls looking for local contractors to help in building the site, building the tower. So it is moving for the first time in a long time.
Good. Excellent.
Oh, so that was almost like a setup then, John, right? Like I didn't know. Okay, I'll give him a B-. How about that, B-?
Just for tonight, Jim. So, all right. So why don't we take these 6 goals we have, and everybody comment on them. We're not meeting again until, what would we say, March? I forget the date. I know the 23rd is one of the dates. And then 16, thank you. And then we'll get them to Greer, and then we'll go from there. All right, because like I said, I think that John's comments, from what I'm hearing from the board, I know certainly from me that John's review and evaluation is going to be favorable. Go ahead, Laura.
I'm just wondering, just so we're on the same sheet of music, I'm wondering, can we just do like meets expectations, needs improvement, exceeds expectations, like something like that, instead of like numeric, but just, like.
Yeah, will you put something in email?
Yes.
Put something in email just so we're all using the same thing. And then let's get it back in 2 weeks so then we can move on, and then we can set, you know, like I said, maybe July 1st after town meeting, after we're done with the budget season. We can certainly add the cell tower. We can do that right now. That's not a problem. But then we can reevaluate and knock a couple of things off and add some more stuff on. But again, if somebody has something, we can do that anytime. We don't have to necessarily wait till July 1st. All right, is there any more questions on that? Okay, excellent. All right, next up is appointments. So John, you wanted to take, this is the Mcquan School Reuse Committee. And what you were explaining to me Friday would be so much easier if you explained it yourself.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. We had, I think there were 8 or 9 members on this committee. They were inadvertently not reappointed back in August when we reappointed everybody. So it didn't really come into play at all, but now it has come into play because we have received 2 proposals for senior housing at the Mcquan School, and we need a committee to review what's going on there. So I reached out to the 5 people I reached out to everyone. The 5 people that are here under the appointments agreed that they would continue to serve on the committee. So I guess this is a 2-step thing really, is to, if you'd like, Mr. Chairman, is to appoint these 5 so we can get rolling with the committee. And then the second step, if we wanted to go there, was several, I think there were 8 or 9 in the original committee. Do you want to add more to the 5? And what would be the process of getting more than 5?
See, it's my opinion that we have 5 willing participants that we should run with the 5 that we have. You know, 7 or 8 is extremely difficult. It's going to take another month. We have 5, and I want Laura to comment on it. Why not run and keep going with the 5 that we have, so then they don't lose any momentum? Laura.
100%, Kenny. And I think the other thing that I would add is this is the gift that keeps on giving, because this thing has taken so long to get to where it is right now. I literally, like, talk about, you know, government moving at a glacial speed. This is the poster child for that. It's taken so long, and it's got nothing to do with John. It's been a series of missteps along the way, and things you couldn't have even projected. But the point that I'm making is that the 5 people that we've got listed here are aware of how we've gotten to where we are, and it would take quite a while to get somebody else up to speed to become a valuable member of the committee to be able to help us make this decision. So I will say, though, Ernie, I don't think is actually a voting member. That would be kind of weird. I think because Ernie works for the district. So I think he was more in the capacity, he never voted, whether he was intending to or not. He was really more of like an advisory capacity.
Ex officio.
Yeah.
He was in the 2019 annual town report as being on the committee. So it didn't say ex officio after him, so I didn't know.
Yeah, he never voted, and it would have been inappropriate because he doesn't even live in town. And so on a variety of different levels, it would have been inappropriate. So with that exception, I think the rest of the people are, you know, up to speed and willing to serve. And I think we had also had like Lee Gamache and you know, we had Deb Petty and some of those other guys were sort of in advisory roles, but they don't need to be appointed. I'm just mentioning that so that the rest of the board knows that it's not just these 3 or 4 people. Like we're supported by a lot of folks up at town hall and their expertise.
So John, we should probably change the Mcquan Reuse Committee from 7 members to 5 members and vote on that, correct? Or
Well,
should we just
it'd be
run with
4
the
and with an ex officio of Mr. Sandlin.
Yep.
And again, in the looking back to when the committee was started, there wasn't a fixed number. It didn't say there would be 9. It just says there would be a committee.
Yep.
Or
okay.
it doesn't
Then we don't need
say.
to vote then. If it didn't have a number, then I don't think we need to vote then. Go ahead, Wes. Oh, you're good. Okay. All right, so any more comments on that? No, okay. So next up under old business is FY22 budget update. We don't have.
So we have to vote that.
Mr. Chairman, yeah,
Ken?
you have to vote the appointments.
Oh, okay. So I'm looking for, you want to vote them, are they all the same term?
Yeah, I will move to reappoint Laura Fitzgerald Kemet, James Armstrong, Wilbur Danner, and Jenna Gomes to the Mcquan School Reuse Committee, expiration date, June 30th, 2023.
Second.
Okay, motion's made and seconded. And do we need to add Ernie in there as an ex officio, or he wouldn't be considered an appointment, John?
Because if you'd like it just to make it very plain that he is an ex officio member, it'd be great if you'd like to vote that.
Let's add that to the motion.
Okay,
I'll second.
great. Motion's made and seconded by Mr. Dyer. Roll call. Laura?
Aye.
Wes?
Aye.
Matt?
Aye.
Jim?
I,
And I'm an aye. Okay.
And Kenny, can I just mention that kudos to Mr. Stanbrook for bringing it this far, because he really brought this sucker over the line. So kudos to him, and much appreciated as usual. His perseverance has paid off, and this may help us with our little 40B situation. We'll see how it goes.
Do you know that John's actually been in the Mcquan school more times when it was closed than when it was open? Okay, next up, old business, the FY22 budget. So we don't really have much on the FY22 budget other than tomorrow, the school assessment. They're going to be voting on the school assessment tomorrow. So not sure how religious you guys are, but if you can pray for a very, very small assessment to the town of Hanson, I'd appreciate that. The other thing, and John, give me just 20 seconds. I only have two things. The budget forum discussion, I'm thinking of a date of like April 13th, and then that will kind of give us a little bit of time to kind of figure out what the best way. I want to solidify and nail down a date, and then we can kind of back into and feed to. I want to have a forum where we have all the department heads. John's already got, if you guys saw on there, John's already has a list of questions going, and try to fine tune that, so then residents can come in and they can ask us questions. At that point, we'll know a little bit more about possible services that are going to have to be cut. But as of right now, there's nothing that John and Todd can do until they get that school assessment. So again, that's going to be out tomorrow. I will be on the school. I didn't email them, which I probably should, but I'm going to be on there. I'm not sure if I need to speak, but I'm going to be on there, at least listen to that. The other thing is John and I taped a municipal focus, and that's going to be with Kevin Tocci. So that was a half-an-hour show. We plan on doing another one in probably 3 weeks, but that municipal focus is going to be available tomorrow. So that's, John, when we get that, I'll send it to you. If you could put that on the Facebook page, we want people to, to watch that, and they'll start to get a little bit of idea of what's going on and what we're going through. You don't have all the answers there, but it's at least a start. Laura, go ahead.
Yep, I'm wondering what kind of communication have we been getting from the school district? Has it been robust and ongoing? Have we been having the business manager reach out to us? Has the chair of the school committee reached out to you? I'm just wondering, because I have heard nothing, and I'm not saying this in the way of like you guys are withholding information, but
Yeah.
I just want to know whether this has been an ongoing conversation or if it's going to be kind of a surprise.
So that's unfortunately a question that I can answer. So right now there has been zero discussions with the schools, and until that budget comes out tomorrow, they're not going to talk. Now John does have, and John, you can jump in. John does have a meeting coming up with their business manager. I believe his name is John Tuffy, and then
Yep.
also Jeff Simonak. He's got to discuss some other things, so I'm sure the budget's going to come up, but no, they have not showed their cards at all. There hasn't been any discussions at all with the school. John, has that changed?
No, the meeting that you were referring to is going to be tomorrow, and it's with the new Whitman Town Administrator as well. We're going to be talking about a wide-ranging discussion of several topics, and the budget obviously will be one of them. We'll all be in the same room, and we'll kind of get that'll be the first face-to-face feedback that I've gotten.
But until the school, until they release their assessment or their budget into the school committee, they're not, they're just not going to share it with us, which is to be expected. Go ahead.
Well, no, I take exception to that, Kenny. I don't think that it's to be expected. And I'm really getting irritated that year after year after year, that we're in the same situation where it's like a complete surprise to us. Here we are trying to balance the budget of an entire town, right? Because that's what we're responsible for. And every year, instead of working with us and talking to us and saying, hey, we're thinking we want to do this, we want to add these programs, or we want to what's your financial situation? Have you guys got extraordinary expenses that you've got? It just feels every year, and every year we have this same conversation. I feel like I'm in Groundhog Day, to be quite honest with you. Every year we have this conversation where we say, this is a partnership. Partnerships mean we need to have ongoing communication. Partnerships need to mean that we have got a shared vision, that we're working together, and that there's a recognition that we've got competing demands, and that we're going to try to meet all of the competing demands as best we can, but we need to have that ongoing communication. And I am extremely dismayed to hear that in a year like we've got going on this year, that there hasn't been that ongoing. It was more critical this year than ever before, and it's been critical before and has been done. That's just my side comment. But John, where did you get these questions that you put together? Were these your own jaded questions, or were these real questions that you've gotten? I was like, wow, we get some tough hitting questions.
These questions are not exactly verbatim questions that I've been asked, but the subject matter has been asked to me by various people around town, whether it's employees, residents, or others, vendors, whoever happens to be. I kind of filed it in my head and spilled it out one time just so I could get it all out. And I mean, the way I'm thinking, if one person is asking them, then perhaps it's maybe not, but perhaps it's something that more than one person would want the answer to.
Oh, definitely. It was a great collection, like a cross section. I was like, wow, this is like, I actually was like, did he do a survey and I didn't even see it? I mean, that's how good they were. So good job on that.
Okay, so if nobody's got any questions on that, go ahead, Matt.
Just a quick question through you, Mr. Chair. Greer, was the school committee meeting posted for the selectmen by any chance?
Well, not for the selectmen, no. I didn't
Okay.
hear back that anyone was planning on attending and participating. How many of the board members plan to attend?
I'm gonna attend, Greer, but I'm not gonna participate.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're just listening on cable,
Correct.
essentially, and Mr. Dyer on cable, or are you planning to
I'll
speak?
just be watching from home. Yep.
Okay.
I just wanted to double check, just in case, spared of the moment.
No,
I
I appreciate that. Yeah, thank you for asking.
Okay. All right. Next up, update on the outstanding selectmen articles. Mr. Stanbrook, would you like to take that, please?
Yes, thank you, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. So I'm trying to go through an article or two every week or every meeting. These are selectmen control articles, just to get a sense of where the board or what the board wants to do with this, with the outstanding articles that are there on the books right now. So this is one of them. This is for $6,500. It was to conduct a commercial appraisal of the Mcquan Elementary School. It was passed at the special town meeting of October 2nd, 2017. It was Article 11, and it was a 59 to 39 yes/no vote. So there's $6,500 to do to conduct a commercial appraisal of the Mcquan Elementary School, and we have not done it we haven't spent a dime of it in 3 years and 2 months or so, whatever, 3 years and 5 months.
Yeah, and
Go ahead, Laura.
that was, we were sort of being preemptive. If you look at the other article that we passed, I think it was probably that same year, we were trying to give ourselves some ability to pivot. If we didn't have anybody that was interested in developing that property and we had to sell it, we obviously would have needed to have somebody appraise it. And it's such a unique property, in terms of like, what it would be worth, that we knew we needed to take a look at that. So given where we're at with the Mcquan Reuse Committee, and it looks like it's getting some sea legs. I mean, it's still hard to tell because we're early in the process and we haven't really vetted the applicants. I would suggest, out of an abundance of caution, that you leave it there, because we may end up, in fact, revisiting whether we're going to sell that or not. So, I just hate to see us have to put another article on it. It's small money. It's not huge.
John, was that the only one for tonight?
Yes, that was the only one for tonight.
Okay. Does anyone else have any more comments on, well, I was going to say Article 11, like it's on there because I'm reading it, but anybody else have any comments on this? No. So, okay. So why don't we do that? Why don't we wait and see? Let's wait. Like Laura said, it is, I mean, it's a small amount. So let's wait and see where that goes. And then John, you plan on each meeting adding one on there for us to visit, correct?
Yes, I've done research on most of them and not all of them. So if I can get them all researched by the time of the next meeting, we could do it all at once if that's what you want to do, Mr. Chairman. Or we can continue to do one at a time, depending on what you want to do. But
John, if time allows you, I would love to be able to go through them, because each meeting, if there's only one or two, then it might take us a while, and the other question I have is, let's say that there's an article that we haven't used the funds. So it's the town accountant that we would have to let know, and then he would release those funds back into the general funds. How would that work?
yes, that's how the town accountant makes the call on whether an article is completed or not. And if it is completed, then he states that it's available for reuse. And we can't do it until he does that. But so we would notify, let's say we wanted to get rid of the 6,500 one we were just talking about, we would formally notify Todd that the purpose of this article has been fulfilled, and this money should be turned back, or if we were going to use it for something else.
So that being said, I think we should clean that up and do that sooner than later. Do you guys agree? Just because there may be some funds there that get freed up that we can possibly use, somewhere here. Go ahead, Laura.
I do agree, Kenny. I'd also take it a step further. And I know why John's been doing it in bits and pieces. He's had a few thousand other things to do, but I think it would be helpful for us to be able to compare and contrast the different ones, so that, maybe we decide that one needs to go. It's not that important, but we really want to keep this one. So if we could see them all stacked together, I think it would be better to make that comparison that way.
John, I think we just found goal number 8. So thank you for that. Okay, next up, old business. Execute and press notice of decision on special permit application. John, you want to spare that up?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So back on December 15th, we had the meeting over at the middle school, and with a joint meeting with the zoning board, and came up with a notice of decision for the special permit approval for 15 Commercial Way. And that was Impressed LLC. and through its representative, Solly Engineering. There were conditions that were made part of the decision. We've gone through and worked with town council in order to put all those things that we talked about that night into the document, the actual official notice of decision, and now it's ready to be reviewed and signed if you so choose.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions on it? I read it. I didn't see anything that jumped out. Did town council review that, John? Did Kate take a look at that?
Yes, she was instrumental in coming up with it. It was Brian Winter. Brian Winter
Brian
was
did.
the,
Okay.
was the lead person on that one.
Okay, excellent. So if does anybody have any questions on it? All right. So now, John, is that something that we need to sign, or is that something?
Yes, that's something the Board of Selectmen have to sign.
Okay. All right. So can you let us know when that's available for us to stop in and sign that, please?
Available as soon as you vote it to sign it. So,
Okay.
well, not tonight. Don't come in tonight. Tomorrow.
We're on the way up there now. Okay, so I'm looking for a motion to execute the impressed notice of decision on special
moved.
permit.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded by Mr. Dyer. Mrs. Kemet,
Aye.
Mr. Bloss,
Aye.
Mr. Dyer,
Aye.
Mr. Hickey,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. Okay, thank you. Next up, approve minutes for July 21st, 2020. Did you guys get a chance to review the minutes?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
the only thing that I don't know if it's required, but attendance was admitted on this. I wasn't sure if that's required or not for all minutes.
That's a good question.
It is required.
I believe it is. Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Okay, so we'll table this and get that on the next one. Is that what we want to do? Okay. All right, next up, the town administrator report. Mr. Stanbrook.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At the January 26th, 2021 Board of Selectmen meeting, the board authorized me to sign payroll, vendor, and withholding warrants on behalf of the board through February 28th, 2021. I signed the following warrants on behalf of the Board of Selectmen since the last meeting. Dated February 4th, 2021, warrant 32 for $3,074,532.90. That was a vendor warrant. And the main things on that warrant, which is a very large warrant, obviously, 2.8 million is the regional school district's third quarter payment, and 156,000 was a health insurance payment for February. The next one I signed on behalf of the board was another one dated February 4th, 2021, warrant 32 PR for $138,168.56. That was payroll warrant. Another warrant dated February 4th, 2021, warrant 32 WH, $26,152.31, and that was a payroll withholding warrant. A warrant dated 2/11 or February 11th, 2021, warrant 33, and that was a vendor warrant. That was for $124,017.52. And again, that was the main one on that vendor warrant was $117,000 for green communities reimbursements. Another warrant dated February 11th, 2021, warrant 33 PR for a payroll warrant for $158,534.03. That's higher than a normal payroll warrant, and that's due to $8,000 worth of snow and ice payroll on there, and also $6,000 of CARES Act payroll costs related to the vaccine distribution setup that we had several weeks ago. Again, the warrant, another warrant, the final warrant dated February 11th, 2021, warrant 33 WH, a payroll withholding warrant for $32,058.86. Also on old business, as we mentioned earlier, I did work with town council to come up with the 40B notice on Cushing's Trails, notice to mass housing, and the final letter was sent in on February 5th. We got a 1 week's extension from the 4th from Mass Housing, but we only needed an extra day, so that wasn't bad. Under new business, the town administrator special act requires me to give the board an update on all outstanding legal matters. I've given my monthly update via letter to you, but it will not be a public document. It may contain personnel, union bargaining, or health-related issues that cannot be discussed in public session, but I have complied with my requirements under the Act. Also under the Act, the special act requires me to give a monthly financial report to the board. Town accountant Todd Hassett has been providing me those reports monthly, and I've passed along the latest report through January. I put it in the Dropbox. I sent that to you. If you have any questions on the report, please let me know. I'll forward them to Todd for any clarification. The International Association of Firefighters, AFL-CIO, Local 2713, has sent a letter to bargain to me, and that starts the formal process of beginning the union negotiations with the firefighters union. The existing agreement expires on June 30th, 2021. So we'll be setting up the beginning of union negotiations with the fire department, or the fire union. I have received notification from Interim Highway Director Kurt McLean that spending on snow and ice removal will exceed the appropriation for that line item for fiscal year 21. If you remember back a few years ago, it used to be that the Board of Selectmen and the Finance Committee had to approve any spending in excess of appropriations for snow and ice. The Municipal Modernization Act, probably 3 or 4 years ago now, did away with that, and the new law says that only the Chief Administrative Officer has to approve those expenditures. So I'm just, in a public meeting, that's me by the Town Administrator Act. So I'm hereby approving expenditures in excess of available appropriations for the snow and ice budget for fiscal year 21. The South Shore Vocational Technical High School, at the last meeting, I hadn't had a chance to review the FY22 budget that had been submitted. And I have reviewed the budget since then, and there's a 4-student increase, which we're going from 80 to 84, or a 5% increase in student population coming from Hanson to South Shore Voc. But the overall assessment is going up 8.16%, which is mainly due to the increase to the minimum contribution that Hanson is required to pay as determined by the Department of Elementary Secondary Education, or DESE. The minimum contribution model that DESE uses takes into account wealth factors in the town, like income levels and property valuations, to determine an ability to pay. I'm doing air quotes around ability to pay for each district in the Commonwealth. That minimum contribution amount has increased 117,000, rounding the numbers off, for Hanson since last year. So it's a combination of those two things is where the increase is. Again, staying with South Shore Voc, I received a letter from Superintendent Tom Hickey requesting that a debt authorization article for $18,960,537 be placed on the spring town meeting warrant. And I have the article here if you want. Actually, I do have it right here. He sent a letter, and it was in your Dropbox. It's going to, if nothing happens, then it's deemed approved. So we should be, that'll be in, I think our next meeting is to go over the submitted articles, and that'll be in there with it. And perhaps, I don't know if the board thinks it or the chairman thinks that perhaps Mr. Hickey could show at the next Zoom meeting, the next GOTA meeting, I'm sorry, to discuss that warrant article if you wanted to. And that'll be March 16th when we go over all the articles. Again, that's something to think about. COVID-19 update and state vaccination strategies. Hanson has gone from a red color-coded community to a yellow color-coded community. The trend is lower on all fronts, and thank God for that. I have put it on the town's website. It's on the red banner on the home page. There's a link to the Mass Department of Public Health data if you want to know more about it. And I just wanted to give kudos to Fire Chief Jerry Thompson, Council on Aging Director Mary Collins, the Board of Health members and the Board of Health agent Gil Amato, and the great work of the firefighters, the school officials, and others who administered the doses at the vaccine site at the middle school a few weeks back. Congratulations on a job well done. I've heard fantastic news and praise from everyone that I've met about it. It went really well. Again, unfortunately, the State Department of Public Health is going to be switching to mass vaccination sites and away from local boards of health for vaccination distribution. I received a letter from the State Department of Public Health that was in your packet. On March 1st, the state will no longer deliver first doses to municipal clinics unless they are communities that rank high on the state's social vulnerability index and also have the greatest COVID-19 burden and the largest percentage of at-risk residents. There are 20 communities, I could list them all, but pretty much is Brockton, Fall River, and New Bedford, and Randolph are the ones that are around here. So that's where they're going to be going. So we did very well with the vaccine that we got. That my personal opinion is we could have done a lot, just continued to do well with the second and kept it rolling. But the state is going to be going away from that and going to mass vaccination sites and regional distribution networks. Just another thing on new business. I submitted a reserve fund request to the Finance Committee for $19,500 to fund the deregionalization study for the Whitman-Hanson Regional School District. They're meeting on, they're acting upon that request tonight. Again, if you remember, the winning bidder was the Management Solution, and that company was from Auburn, Mass. The coming attractions will be next scheduled meeting is March 16th. And the highlights there will be to close the warrant and review the proposed articles. And it'll likely be a go-to meeting again. I'm sorry. Thank you, Greer. There was one other thing that was in your packet. It was about Plymouth County CARES Act. I was able to get what we've done so far on one page. And that was in your packet. There's a lot of dense information on it, but it breaks down pretty well, I think. What percentage of where the money has gone, under what expenses have been reimbursed, and where we're going forward, and what part of the town, what part of the CARES money was allocated to the town, what part of the CARES money is allocated to the school district, and it's about 48.52, and 4% or so is related to the Voc district. So and that comes out of the town side, so it's about 44%. So and again, that we could talk about that at the next meeting if you like, but it was in your packet. It was a late addition, and that's it, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much.
Excellent. John, great job. Keep up the good work. If nobody else has anything else, then I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded by Mr. Dyer. Mrs. Kemen.
Aye.
Mr. Bloss.
Aye.
Mr. Dyer.
Aye.
Mr. Hickey.
Aye.
And I'm an aye. Thank you guys very much.